Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
What up? That's right. Welcome to EMIY TV, Put Your Family First podcast. We are excited today. We got a special guest. We're coming in out of the sun. I'm still not chocolate enough. I'm working on my Africa, right? So, bear with me. But yes, today is a special day. It's a Monday, of course, as usual. Everybody's going crazy over the Alabama brawl, right? And something so childish made you feel real good, in my opinion. It felt like a relief. People talking about it as if it was a real moment. You got people posting it's a national holiday. You might not like how I feel about it. But I personally am not going to say it right now. But one thing for sure, it went down, right? And so everybody is, in their little element, little spaces. I done seen little silly stuff. I'm watching and the anticipation. I'm going to say this and get this out the way. This is just for me, right?
Okay.
You better be careful of the words you choose. Because the words that you choose manifest things.
Every time.
And you still haven't figured this out because we still have a lot of issues. And this one little incident don't have shit on the issues that we are dealing with. Right? And so you can feel good for a moment. But you need to put your eyes on some books and some more information, because I'm telling you, our children, these families, we are dying. And we are dying at an alarming rate. And what's crazy, I said this when I was in Boston, and it made Dr. Norm, I said, isn't it crazy that a black girl at 16 years old, Dr. Bath, who invented the laser however you said it, LASIK surgery, right? At 16 years old, said, while in a science program, that the cancer was in the food. She goes on and she develops the LASIK surgery. And I can tell you right now, that is 1 million black people don't know nothing about that woman. Don't know nothing about, went and got eye surgery, didn't know it was a black woman that did it, right? We talk about black women and cancer, alarming. Here she said it, this in the 60s, that it was in the food. So, that's my little segue, because today is Ladies' Day. We all gonna get into this. Heather, how are you?
Good day. I'm awesome.
Good. You feeling good?
I am feeling great. I had a great vacation, great time with family. Was surrounded by a lot of spiritual metaphysics. I was in my element. Yes.
Okay, that's what's up. So our guest today, with no further ado, is a throwback and a welcome back and a whole bunch of that. Our friend, our sister, Crystal Gunn.
That's L Gunn, Crystal L Gunn.
Thank you very much, Heather. Thank you very much. Glad to be back in the folds with you guys. I don't know if I like the term throwback though, but
Right.
yeah.
Do you remember? So yes, Crystal came, right? She hit me up and we was like, let's do it anytime. She knows it's always home. And so, Crystal, we'd like to hear, what have you been up to before we get into your next project?
God, so much. I wish I could be like Heather and say that I just came back from vacation.
That wasn't vacation, but that's how she took it.
But off me for a moment, I do have a daughter who graduated from Florida A&M University back in May, so I'm extremely proud.
Wow, awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So, other than that, doing what I do, all things Black economics, all things financial education in the community, that is what I love. That is where I fight. Yeah, that's where I'm most passionate, uplifting my community.
For sure.
All right. So, with that being said, let's get right to it. I think it's important for us to get right to it because, yes, all things financial. A lot of people don't. I know this, but a lot of people don't know that you were the first what?
What was I the first of?
You was the first what? Let's go back into your bio.
So, yeah, way back in the day, I used to be vice president of a credit union in Pontiac. And I actually, at that time, was the first and only Black VP in the entire Oakland County chapter of credit unions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll take that one.
Yeah. I pulled that one out the archives on you.
That one. I'm like, what did I do? That was a long time ago.
Yeah. That was a long time
Which
ago.
always reminds me I've been in this thing for a very, very long time.
Yeah. You've been in it.
Yeah.
A minute. What? 30?
Let's see. My baby is 22. So yeah, easily 30 years.
30. Right.
That's a long time.
Well, usually when you know, that's the thing, right? Like I said, that going to move, right, it up, there's so many people that, right, they right here. And, you know, I just seen it. Down here, people collaborate. Up there, the people, down here, the people are competing. Up here, the people are collaborate, right? And when we get out of the down here mindset and we get up here and we start collaborating, things expand and grow and, you know, those types of things, right? But I had to pull that out because a lot of people don't know that about you.
That's true.
A lot of people don't know that about you. A lot of people don't know how, you know, they see you, they meet you like, oh, yeah, you know, and that's both of y'all. They meet y'all, they don't know y'all have 30 years of work, within the culture.
Yeah.
And you should be elevated, you know, uplifted and grown to the level for the national, and that's the next thing. So I just got to give me one of them hand clap things, you know what I mean, for these ladies.
But you know, it's interesting as you say that because I was just at a meeting earlier, and I'd always say that without collaboration, we can't do the work that needs to happen. We can't do it alone. We have to go in and collaborate. And then last night, I was updating like the full bio of myself. And I said, everybody needs to do this because it wound up being an exercise that I didn't expect. I was just updating it to update it on my website. But I was like, dang.
Right.
I've been doing this thing.
Right.
Sure. And you don't recognize it when you just keep doing the work step after step. You don't always take a moment to say, what have I done and who have I impacted? So it was real eye-opening for me and fueling my continued journey in this thing. So
well, and then that's good, right? But you know, when you look at it from that perspective, right? You know, you got to say you're dope. You know what I mean? and I mean,
I should have had that shirt on today.
Right. Right. I'm busting your head today, right? So you got to say that you're dope, right? Because that's what you like. Again, when we start talking, because you see so many people, they're doing this thing, and the thing that you cannot watch really and pay attention is to other people because you got your own perspective and journey. And in order to get or catapult to a different area for the nation, right? A lot of people I'm not comfortable with the local. For me, it's national, you know, just like sure. I get tapped on the shoulder to speak in UMass while we there in UMass in Boston, right? Right? That 10 minutes mean everything to me, right? Because it was an opportunity. And now I'm in another place, right? But in that process, let's get down to this single black woman. So just a few statistics before we get in. Well, you know, as well as I know, you both know that the single household is a very negative input on life. We understand that what is happening to our children. It's funny because being out of order, I was just saying this too, being out of order puts us out of order, puts us in the order of somebody else.
Say that again.
Being out of order puts us out of order and puts us in the order of somebody else.
Yeah.
And what has happened is that the black male and the black female are number one. They're number one in incarceration. Now, the only way that you can get that piece is you got access. Let's remove your protection. Let's give you these things, and now you have access. Because you're out of order, you have all these problems and issues and things. So that's the first thing. But in this collective that you're launching, and
yes.
you tap in whenever you want to tap in this collective that you're offering, why did you start this Single Black Mothers Collective?
Last year, State of Black Business, National Business League meeting, Dr. Boyce Watkins was the keynote speaker, and one of the statistics he gave was that single black mothers are at the bottom of the wealth ladder. Mm-hmm. And right above that is single black fathers with children in multiple households. And I said, okay. And I believe, I'm a firm believer, because I've done this thing with uplifting and empowering black women for a long time now, that we have a certain power, and that power to impact our mates, our kids, our communities at large, right? But in order to do that, we have to be healed and whole. So when Dr. Boyce Watkins said that, it resonated with me, because we divorced when my daughter was 4. Mm-hmm. Now you'll hear me say I got the best ex-husband in the world. If we have to have ex-husbands, like I have the best ex-husband in the world.
He is a Virgo. Go ahead.
He is not a Virgo.
Go ahead. I'm being silly.
So
I'm just claiming my daughter, but go ahead.
Right. But with that though, I remember what it was like to be the only person in the house with an income. Right? And so now, once we separated homes, which is what you guys talk about a lot, once we separated households, that decreased our income. That decreased the money coming in. So it totally made sense to me. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, I have to do something specific for the single black mothers as a precursor, really and truly, to reuniting and rekindling that family. But we got to be right first in order to be able to do that. So that's how it was born.
Woo! Sounds like boss to me. Right? That fits boss, right? So
absolutely.
It fits boss. Building our sons. That's the right, and that's what we do in the boss. So that's awesome, right? And so, how's it going? What have you seen?
So just launching this thing, right? So because again, now. You know, I think I had to learn this from Heather. God will give you a preview of something. It doesn't mean you're supposed to do it right then. You have to be positioned. But I'm going to tell you and I'm going to show you what it is so that when the time comes, it's time for you to do that. So I appreciate you guys letting me come on to talk about this thing as I do what I'm calling a listening tour so that people can understand what this thing is. So it officially launches September 1st, but we are in pre-launch and people can still join. But for me, it touches the whole woman, her children, and that the father of her children, right? And it's a monthly subscription program. And you know, for me, all things starts with finances. So we're going to start with finances first, because when you create a strong financial relationship, every area in your life starts to change because you're having that mindset. So yeah, this is really pre-launch. Get in and start. It's I'm excited about what it will do because I've seen the impact in people that show up at my workshops, people that I personally coach financially. I see the impact. So now it's giving the rest of the people who I can't be in a room with giving them access to me. Yeah.
And so, tell us, when you talk about subscription, tell us what that looks like.
So, Heather, this is the part that's going to really be interesting to you, right? So, I got this preview, this download, and it was like, create this subscription program. And the thing is, through this financial piece, you will get assignments to complete, right? And because mothers are busy, whether they're single or not, you get a couple of days. So you'll get an email every few days. It's an email drip, but you have these assignments to complete, from, budgeting to credit to banking, all of that. And in my mind, when I just started creating it as it was given to me, I was like, okay, well, it just will be a subscription program from as long as someone's in it. Well, then about a month ago, it was like, no, it needs to be 9 months at this price and then $4.99 after. And I said, okay.
Birth it. There you go.
And then I went back to looking at
your
the
3 cycles.
Okay, right. I went back to looking at the significance of that number 9 and what that all meant, and I was like, I got it. So it is $24.99 per month for 9 months and $4.99 after. And this month it's $19.99 if you join now.
If you join.
And then it'll go down to $4.99. And the reason that it's more upfront is because there's some heavy lifting that you have to do upfront, right? And that $4.99 then just keeps you part of the collective, where you have access to all of the workshops, all of them in the past recordings, and then what's coming after that. Because again, it's not just finances. There's personal healing, there's relationship healing, there's motivations, there's entrepreneurship, all of that stuff that goes into play. So it keeps you plugged into that, because when we unplug from a thing, right, we lose that momentum. So that $4.99 keeps you plugged in, but that $24.99 during that 9-month period where we're, like you said, birthing a new thing. Right. It's the start over again. That's where that piece comes from.
Absolutely. Sounds like 3 cycles of 3 to me.
Does.
Right. That first trimester. What does the first trimester look like in that process?
So really and truly, that first trimester, first and second, is really about finance, building. So there's something that I do with all of my clients to start with, and I call it Find the Money Challenge. And that Find the Money Challenge is, you have an assignment where you're looking at what you've spent and how you spend your money, right? But what it does, because first of all, you can't even start to create a budget if you don't even know what you're spending on. And let's be clear.
For sure.
Most people are not looking at their bank statements every single month. They're just spending the money and doing the things that they have to do. And let me ask you this question. When you hear the term budget, what comes to mind?
That would be for me?
Both of you.
Oh, okay. When I hear the term budget, I think about what you bring in versus what you send out, and what's the process of how both of those happen?
Consistency.
Okay, consistency. Most people think of restrictions, right? Like, oh, I can't spend. And then very much of what you said, what you bring in versus what you go out. And typically when people are talking about building budgets, they always tell you have to track your expenses. A budget should allow you, if it's efficient and effective, you're building a budget so that you can live the life that you want, right? Not just tracking your expenses and the things that you're paying, but you're putting line items on that so that you ultimately can live the life that you want. So before we even start doing that and building that, we got to know what you've done, right? And so that Find the Money Challenge is going to show you what you spend your money on, how you spend your money on, and most importantly, it's going to give you some insight on what you value over you.
Yes, absolutely. And so let me just say I've done that that exercise. I've done that exercise. Let me say I've done that exercise multiple times, because it took me more than once to kind of start to really see and narrow it down. So, and I did I think I did the 3 months prior, and then I started to track it. At least I kind of fell off after my second month of tracking it. Looking at that window and kind of ooh and ouch, and going through my process. And then I picked up, I started over again, and then we decided to do build our family budget around it, because we're teaching our our 16-year-old son about who thinks he's going to have his own place by the time he's 18. But to these are the things that you actually have to pay attention to. And so we do that as a family now. So it's been very helpful. And because I have your book about couples, and I have the book on the single woman and her finances too. So, we have the tools.
Cover all the basics.
Right. We have the tools. We have the tools. For sure.
And we're not taught this. So,
No.
I tell people all of the time, in order to get to where you want to be, you have to face the things that you've done in the past. You got to face it, but then you have to forgive it, because some stuff you just did because you're surviving and you didn't know any better and how to do anything different. And then once you face it and forgive it, now we can start to fix it. And mothers being the first teachers of our children, right? We're going to have the biggest impact, and we're then going to empower everybody that we come in contact with. But we can't do that if we don't have our own stuff together.
That is so true. That is so true. So what is I know that you've been doing this work for a long time, and especially when you start seeing the single mothers and kind of our household dynamics now unfolding. Mothers are the models for their daughters, so there also is a lesson in it for the daughters and the grandmothers who are now grandparenting and raising their grandchildren. What are some of the lessons and messages that are for them?
So what ultimately winds up happening is we start to think things differently, right? So when they talk about those generational curses that are passed down, and we're going from generation to generation to generation operating in survival mode. And survival mode is going to have you doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do, right? It's going to have you doing stuff and thinking things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And so now we're in survival mode. It's this independent woman, which then says, I don't need anything. I don't need this person to do this, because somewhere in life that's let you down. So now you're operating in survival mode, and then you're teaching your children how to operate in survival mode.
Yes.
And then they're going to teach their children how to operate in survival mode. So somewhere along the lines, and part of the Single Black Mothers Collective objective is to get you out of survival mode and to move you from surviving to thriving. And let me be clear, it doesn't matter how much money you make in this process, right? So some people will think one of the biggest, drivers of people not showing up for financial education workshops and things of that nature is, I make good money. Right? And they think because they make good money, definitely doing air quotes around that, but because I make good money or I have halfway decent credit, that I don't need to show up. You definitely need to show up, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you come sit at the table and if you learn something, if it's just one thing that will get you to the next level in your life, then it's a win for you, right? It's an absolutely win. And so for the people who say, I make good money because I make over $100,000, only 18% of individuals in the country make over $100,000 a year. And 35% of U.S. households make over $100,000 a year. And yet over 70% of people in the U.S. are living paycheck to paycheck. So that tells you something is not happening right. Now, I'm not going to blame the victim, because we know a lot of stuff we're not taught. Prices and this inflation things are triple the price of what they were 2 years ago. So some of that goes into play, but some of that also could be prevented if we had a great financial relationship and had efficient and effective budgets going in.
Crystal, how do we start to dismiss some of those myths around, like you just did one about making good money? How about I don't make any money, therefore this can't be for me?
Oh, I always say if you don't make any money, or if someone says, "Oh, this is too much," you're the first person that needs to sign up, right? Because you need help. So part of this is understand. Calvin gave those great that great information. Me doing this 30 years ago, I'm the first at this and doing all of these workshops. But I had my own financial hardship and journey at one point, right? And it wasn't due to the divorce. It was due to the businesses that the mortgage industry crashing after the divorce. I had a mortgage company. And it probably would not have been as bad if I had another income in the household, but that's a whole nother story. So I had my own financial storm, right? And all of these years ago, there weren't these gurus. There weren't all of these people on social media. It wasn't a lot of people like me that did personal financial coaching. So I had to figure it out, and I had to rely on the downloads that God gave me. But I went through my own storm, and I realized after the fact, because I didn't understand it when I was going through it, that the reason I had to go through the storm was to go back and get people out of the storm, right? So I use all of that to come back and help you get out of the storm, because when you're in it, I don't care if it's a mist or torrential downpour, you can't always see your way out of it. So part of my job is to help you get through that storm. And so those people who are saying, I don't have, and you know, we're real creative in our community. You get an income from somewhere. Now let's make it work for you, right? Whether it's you're going to do, you know, you got a job, or you're doing hair in the back of the house. We have income. We're always going to have income. But how are we going to use that income to work the best for you? And that's the thing that people can't. They don't know how to do it because it's never been taught to them.
That and this thing here, right here, tells them, oh, go to Wendy's, go to McDonald's, we got a sale today at so-and-so. And it's pulling, right? The advertising agency is pulling, you know, in so many areas. And so because it's at a click, now it really has you, and you don't, because you are not conscious of that very thing, is at a click. So because I clicked too many times, and you just seen the videos, let me see your phone, right? And then it was like, oh, here, you can see my phone, right? Now let me see your Amazon account, right? And they pass out or fall on the floor or whatever, right? Because it's at a click. You know what I mean?
It's so easy. It's not painful.
It's so easy, and it's at a click. And then you look up and you got a bunch of stuff. You got a bunch of stuff everywhere, except for that stuff represents where you could be putting that money, as you say, putting your money to work for you. Right, and so in that case, right, this is where we differ. I kind of think we stack, right? I think we do a pretty decent job of putting money away, putting aside rainy day. Not saying that women don't, right? I'm saying that, you know, I know in previous relationships now and all, like, we'll pull aside some money and put it away. Right,
because you all are providers.
Right, and that's such a different thing for us. At the same time, I think if we can just shut off some of those things. Listen,
I say it all the time.
If you could just shut off some of those things, it might save not even just your financial, it might save your relationship, because when you're doused in these things, you're starting to hear words that, oh, you soft, or you a simp, or you, right? You're starting hearing those words, and you're using those words in your relationships. So in using those words, back to the beginning, hey, I'm back at the beginning when I was talking about words, right? So now you're using those words in your relationships, and those words are causing harm in your relationships as well as relationships in your money. Because if I'm beefing with you, and right, and now we got this beef, I got a reason to go what they call shopping therapy.
Retail therapy, let's just say that retail therapy is not a thing. It's not therapy.
It's not therapy.
It's damaging.
It's damaging. It's very, very damaging. Anyway, so that being what it is, let's get to, are you running a special now to join, you know, since it's the pre-launch, September 1st? I like the fact that this thing is a Virgo.
Yes. So $19.99 per month if you join this month in August, and it'll go back up to, you know, it'll go to $24.99, which is still really, really affordable. The goal was to keep it affordable. We have to invest in ourselves, right? So it winds up being an investment in you. And it's funny that you talked about the shopping thing, because people will shop and buy, and it says now it's time to invest in you, and people will be like, well, I I don't have it. And be like, yeah, but you had it for the last 4 weekends when you were at the mall. You had it when you were in line, getting the new Jordans. You had it when you were continually then putting that shopping, quote unquote, addiction onto your children because you're buying them all of this stuff, right? Where did we lose sight of our value and says, well, we won't invest in ourselves? And so it's an investment in yourself. And I think when you when you get to the other side of it, it doesn't just impact you, it impacts your kids, it impacts your mate. Because part of this program, too, is we're going to show you and teach you how to effectively financially co-parent.
Wow. Say that again. Say that again.
Part of this is teaching you and showing you how to effectively financially co-parent, because we don't do a great job at that. And understand, again, nowhere in this am I victim blaming. I'm just helping to give you the solutions and the guide, getting you out of the storm to make it better. We know that there's a war on the families. We know that, but we have to stop buying it as that. The biggest piece of financial education is mindset. We got to change our mindset.
Wow. We
got to figure out what's important to us. And I always ask that hard question. And the thing that might be weird is when I ask people, what do you want the rest of your life to look like financially? They have no idea. So they're not even thinking about it. And if you won't think about it, you can never attain it. So we just go through the day with, okay, I go to work, I pay these bills, and I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to buy more stuff. I would rather someone say to me they had messed up credit and no savings because they've had a ton of experiences for them and their children. We went to the museums, we've traveled, they've seen that, as opposed to them saying, my children haven't gone anywhere, but they got 17 pair of gym shoes. So...
yeah, we definitely have our work cut out for us. I like the fact that you brought up co-parenting when we're talking about single mothers. And I'm going to suspect that the single mothers also mean single grandmothers.
Correct.
Raising kids, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So as you talk about that, and I like that also in your presentation, you talked about being whole. Where do you see the connection between co-parenting and a woman being whole?
I think when you're not whole and you're not healed and or healing, because let's be clear on that, healing is a lifelong journey. Mm-hmm. But you can't see straight. You can't understand how to operate, right? You can't. There's so many things. You all probably have way more statistics on this than me, but you can't. Right. You can't. Emotionally, you're not in a place to be able to, for whatever reason, that you are no longer with that person.
Right.
If you haven't healed and gotten past that, how do you then go up and have a conversation about your kids, and financially or otherwise, when it's all of these other things still that you haven't gotten over past or learned how to deal with? Right.
So it kind of clouds your judgment. It clouds your judgment when your pain is what's in front of you and not the solutions or not the co-parenting. And I think that's an important piece when we talk about looking at single moms and grandmoms and the co-parenting process. It is it's almost like having to clean your glasses first so that you can see a little bit more clearly. And so moving some of the debris, if you will, out of the way.
It's I think it's very, very difficult to anything.
Correct.
When you come from this mindset. So you have to go through this process, right? Mm-hmm. You have to go through this process, right? Because the work that you do and the work that you do, if they don't go through this process, if they don't get the healing, the understanding, the what's the name, who they are, right? It's the same for the men, right? Because essentially this is what has been taught. So unaccountability becomes a wear on any relationship. So financial relationship, dating relationship, right? The unaccountability is very, very bright. So cleaning off your glasses is one thing, but you got to get to that really the work is at the foundation for you to have to admit. And we have to get to a point to where we get people to admit I am flawed. And what do I do from here? And what steps do I take? Because it really is, it's really destroying a lot. And so you find yourself, because you're not healed in one area, the other area, you could care less. And so then if you got this thing in your hand and you constantly on this thing, and this thing telling you, oh yeah, here's another, and now you caught up in another conversation, and you didn't miss the conversation that you needed to be having with yourself, with your former mate, right? Because the kids are ultimately important. And so what am I teaching the kids? Well, I'm a kid myself. Right? So the mindset piece that you both deal with, that mindset piece has to be shifted, right? Because if you set the proper standard, he has no choice but to see himself and set a proper standard, because that's what he's been raised in. He's been raised by a woman. So a lot of women don't understand that. A lot of these guys don't have an identity in this co-parenting relationship. All he has is, oh, you got me on child support. Oh, you don't want me to.
And what are we doing with the child support?
Right.
So even if that's the only thing that you're getting from the,
Right.
for whatever reason,
Right.
But what are we even doing with the child support that we're getting?
Right.
Are we using it effectively for that?
What it's supposed to be used for?
Yeah.
The kid. Does the kid have a budget? Does the kid himself have a budget?
This whole thing, you said it, it's about personal accountability.
Yeah.
Personal accountability and personal healing. And the thing that I find is when you start, maybe it's because I come from this strategy first. Heather may come from a different strategy. But when you start to heal in a particular area of your life, the overflow into the other areas, right?
Right.
Are, I mean, they're huge. So when we're releasing the stress of your financial relationship, and now you're moving that way, you're never going to go back to, you know, having bad credit and not having a savings and not having an efficient and effective budget. You're not going to go backwards, but as you continue to move forward, every other area in your life begins to pick up. And we talk about this thing, you know, we get in this process where we hear all of these buzzwords all the time. And so it's, you know, we talk about self-care. But one of the things that I preach in self-care is your financial education as well. You have to be financially okay. That's part of self-care, because if you're worried about your finances and you're worried about your credit, or you can't get into a place now because they're pulling your credit for rent just like they're pulling your credit for mortgage, that stress winds up manifesting as other illnesses in your body. So again, when you're getting that area, that financial area in your life straight, I always say everyone has a financial relationship, right? Most of the time, it's not defined by you. Someone else is defining it, and they're not defining it in your favor. So you have to reclaim that power and to define your financial relationship based off the life that you want to live, not this survival mode that you're just doing.
That's the survival mode is terrible.
It's
terrible, and it'll make you say, you know, oh, it'll make you wait on God. It'll make you believe that this is just it. This is as far, you know, and they're going to come one day, right? It's going to happen. And when it's action steps, it is action steps, right? And that you know, God is only going to reward what's on the paper and what you're acting and what you're doing, right? That's where you're going to get your reward at. If it ain't on paper, He can't help you. If you ain't acting toward it, He can't help you. If you ain't working toward it, He can't help you. So that whole process, the hocus pocus concept, that's over with, right? Because we understand that this whole thing right now, you use it for hope, but hope requires steps. You know what I mean?
It definitely
requires steps. Hope requires steps. So why do you start with finances first?
It gets you out of that storm. I'm telling you, when your finances are messed up, you will be depressed. You will be sick.
Oh.
Listen, I remember my daughter. This is us having this conversation.
Right.
You know, me and the princess guy have a great relationship.
Right.
But she will say, and has said to me, and I've had to apologize. She'd be like, "Mama, you were mean." And I was mean because I was depressed. I was mean because my finances weren't right. And so you don't even know, I didn't even know that I was depressed. But she was like, no, you were mean because I was unhappy. I was stressed out. I was worried. I was this. I was that. And that shows up everywhere, in every area of your life. So, and I think the biggest reason that I start with finances is because, a couple reasons. One, that's my assignment, right, is the financial piece. But two is because I know what's coming down the pipe. We are about to we're already in trouble. Right. Let's just say that. Right. But it's about to get worse before it gets better. Right. And it is here and it is knocking on the door. So if you are at a place where, you know, this living paycheck to paycheck, 71% of the people in the country are living paycheck to paycheck. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if there are those things that I'm going to tell you that you need to have that you never thought about because you weren't taught it and you don't know to put it in your budget, we're going to work through all of that. But if y'all I sit here and I just plead and I feel so bad because it's about to get so much worse for people. And I'm like, I don't know. You know, remember there was the study that said if the current trend continues, this was about 4 or 5 years ago, if the current trend continues by the year 2054, that blacks will have no wealth. Yeah. It's not going to take that long. It's not going to take to 2054.
It's happening now.
Exactly. And so it's just, for me, that can't happen on my watch. And it's not just about this generation. It has to be about the generations after that. So I start with finances because I don't care what you do, where you go, economics is important.
So you got to be able to read the economic report. So it's going to go back to that whole piece that I was just saying this weekend. No matter what we look at across the board, culturally, no matter what it is, you are going to have to shift to becoming a reading culture because you're not going to be able to understand the financial report. Because you can't read.
You can't understand your own financial.
So you don't know.
So you don't know.
So then you're not going to be able to walk into the bank or whatever. These are things that you have to have, right? And you can't shy away. You got to go at this thing. And so
it's important.
It's ultimately too important. But I like what you were saying because I deal with that, right? Because as a person, I got my hands like that, right? And so just like we getting ready to relaunch EMIY Apparel. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, now when we relaunch this, what's going to back it up? So I started back printing, right? And so now I got that in order. I got everything in order to continuously make money, right? So now when we launch EMIY Apparel, okay, 20% of that got to go somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I already got the financial guy, one of my guys, we already putting it in, sending money already, right, into a mutual fund, right? One of the biggest mutual funds in the country, right? So we signed that up. We were signing the parents up, but for me, is liquid. What do I have, right, in my hand that I can touch, right? How much of that can I touch?
So here's the thing. Every dollar you earn should have a job. Every single dollar you earn should have a job. If you bring home $3,000 a month, every one of those $3,000 should have a job. Now, some of those jobs are going to be, obviously, the bills. We got that. We got to pay that, right?
Right.
But then it's also, what are we setting aside for entertainment? What are we setting aside for travel? What are we setting aside for life insurance? What are we setting aside? So those things, what are we setting aside for self-care? All of those things are important. So, and by the time you go through that thing and every one of those dollars has a job, it's another aha moment. You're either going to see, whoa, wait, I'm spending too much money because I'm spending more than I make. Right? Which keeps you in a constant state of, yep. Or it wasn't that I didn't make enough money. I just had a budgeting problem. Right. And for a lot of people, it just winds up being, I know I had a client who kept saying, I don't make enough money. And I said, no, I think you got a budgeting problem. And we went back and forth and we went through that thing about assigning every dollar job. And at the end of it, she said, wow, I had a budgeting problem. I said, yeah, because most people track their expenses. They don't track. If it was coming in a before we became paperless, if you would have gotten that bill in the mail, so DTE, gas, lights, mortgage, rent, auto insurance, you were getting all of those things in the mail. That's what people track. They don't track the gas, the groceries. I went to the club this weekend. I went shopping. Subscriptions. And so it's all of those things. And when we set that up on the front end, that's why I say it's always heavy lifting on the front end. When we set that thing up on the front end, and then we automate it, life becomes so much easier because I've shown you how to do the thing. Also, part of the Single Black Mothers Collective is about entrepreneurship. There are going to be women in here that are entrepreneurs, or I'm working a job, but I also have this other thing over here that I do. Well, we need to be able to scale it because you got to have more than one. You gotta have
multiple streams of income.
You gotta have multiple streams of income. And now if you have this collective across the country, guess what? Now you're going to and you're coming to these other women, and part of that is showing you how do you collaborate. This is not your competition, this is your ally, and we're gonna show you how to make that so that you all can do more. So yeah.
So there in the chat, somebody said true. CC, she said truth. Dale Sanders said, woo, I felt that huge XL Cal. Adrian said, when your finances aren't together, you don't feel right, and kids don't understand because all they do is ask, and we try and provide. Education is number one when it comes to finances. I live check to check, but have totally trusted God to get me through, and He has provided enough and more than I expected, and I'm happy. Sometimes having more can make people depressed, so we have to meet in the middle. But this is a teaching moment.
So we have been conditioned, right, to say too many times people will say, and I ask, and too many times the answer is, I just want enough to be comfortable.
That's limitation.
I just want enough to be, and I'm like, but what God do you serve? Because
that's limitation.
And you forgot God's promise to you, right?
Yeah.
Prosperity is your birthright. So when we start talking about, I just want enough to survive, or I just need to be able to pay this.
Yeah.
But what if you had more than that? Couldn't you impact more lives?
Yeah.
Couldn't you do more things? And who said we had to be happy and satisfied with this small amount that people are giving us? All of that winds up being, the other part of that is fear.
It's fear.
I'm scared to make more money.
I'm scared to have more money.
I'm scared to have more.
I'm scared
I'm scared to look. I'm scared to start.
To look.
Yeah.
I'm scared to start.
And we got to push past that, because guess what? We the only people that say that. We're the only community that says that. There's not another community out there saying, I'm okay with just this little bit.
Yeah, because you're out of order. And because you're out of order, you have disorder. And because you have disorder, you have this order.
So there's a mindset shift that has to happen. So it's, for me, it's never just about these numbers. We do a lot of financial therapy because we have to understand. Most people don't even know why they operate the way that they operate. If you look at, do you work from sun up to sundown and feel like you're not making ends meet? Go back and look. What happened? Did you see your parents working from sun up to sundown? And you used to hear them say, but I work from sun up to sundown and I still can't make ends meet. Well, you associate working from sun up to sundown with not making enough money, so you can't even, your mind, you're not even vibrating on a frequency to gain more money, because you have been conditioned from what you saw growing up, what you heard, what you overheard. And that's still how you're operating, and you don't even know that that's the very thing that's holding you back. So we have to uncover, unplug, unlearn, and then relearn new things so that we can get to where we want to be.
Okay, with that being said, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to just put this thought in people's minds as well, especially those who have opportunity to become part of the collective. One, it can be gifted. So if you have a daughter or granddaughter, you have a friend, it is something that can be gifted. especially this initial start, right? So that's one way to look at it. So we talk about, what do we give for birthday gifts? What do we give for, these types of gifts? Here's one. We want to cheer somebody up. Here's one. They're struggling. Here's a way to help. Initiate the subscription for them. So that's one. But the other thing I want to talk about is when we say the word whole, WHOLE, make sure you have not fallen into the HOLE as well. So we can find ourselves in a hole, and that's where our mindset is sitting at the bottom of that. So as we, move beyond that mindset, we can add that W in front of it. So when you're looking at yourself as the fullness of yourself, we're talking about whole. When you're looking at your deficit, you're talking about that word starting with the HOLE. So be mindful. Where is your mind? Are you in the whole, or are you whole? Are you striving to become whole? All of that is going to be defined by the activities that you take and the next steps that you make. So you were asking, how do they reach me?
I was asking you, how are they going to reach you?
You can reach me at yourinspiredjourney.com, yourinspiredjourney.com. You can reach out to me personally. I give you my phone number so you don't have to drop messages on the direct messaging or the digital messaging. Please reach out to me at 313-759-7855. It's easier to reach me there than it is through social media. So please call direct. Let's have a conversation.
That's the truth. Social media.
Crystal, where can they meet you at?
Absolutely. CrystalGunn.com. Or you can give me a call. CrystalGunn.com. Search under programs for the Single Black Mothers Collective. Read up on it. Hit join. It'll walk you through that process. Again, it's going to be $19.99 per month for 9 months if you join and register in the month of August. You also can give me a call, 313-410-8260, 313-410-8260. And you can find me on all of the social media as well.
All right. So with that being said, right, the significant point was made today. Give me a book recommendation for these people on finance.
Oh, I'm gonna give you my book recommendation.
Let's go with it then.
So there's 2 books out there on my website. If you go to shop, there's Financially Flawless Questions. So it's over 60 questions. There's a single mother's edition and there's a couples edition. A lot of times we don't even know the questions and the conversations to have, especially if we're in a relationship or starting a relationship. It walks you through those steps. So read the instructions. You don't want to have like 2-hour-long conversations from the beginning, but go on there and get those books.
And your book?
Well, I would suggest that you start off with Patch of Grass, which is climbing up out of that HOLE. So finding your center and then knowing that you are actually that patch of grass. So that would be the one I would recommend.
Awesome. What a good show. What a good time. Thank you for coming, Crystal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, for always input. Thank you, Monique. Right. And so you can reach me at calvintman.com for your booking, school, speaking, corporate speaking, wherever you need someone to bring in some encouragement. I am your guy. Go to calvintman.com. So one thing that we're going to be left with here today, she walked in the door. One thing we do at Put Your Family First is we always bring you solutions. If you're having these problems, they're on the page, tag, and make sure that you reach out to these ladies. If it's on the financial, make sure Crystal just came here and dumped a wealth of information on you. Get that service, get involved, get your finance together. But most importantly, if you can get that together, you're going to get yourself together. You're going to be a little bit more balanced. You'll be a lot more healthier. Get your mind right. Those are the 2 books that they put out. But I'm going to tell you, for those of you who are still walking around juicing and being happy about Alabama, go get the book Humanity Archives so you can learn something about what you're capable of, and you can learn more about what you have accomplished in this country. So go get the book Humanity Archive. And this last thing is, no matter what has been said here today, it was done in order. And we have to get ourselves to a place where we understand that order is where you will get the results that is needed. If you believe that somehow that you can be ahead of something or beneath something at the same time, you are going to lose. The other and the last piece I want to tell you, and it's most important that you need to know this: teach.
Yes.
Teach your children, teach your grandparents, teach your aunts, teach your uncles. Don't just share information to brag. Teach them where they can get it, and teach them so they'll understand. Because one thing that is happening right now that has to stop, we are no longer the ones that's teaching. We're just talking. And that talk cannot save you. It is going to be your words, deeds, and actions. And remember to always tune back in here next Monday at 4 p.m. We're going to pick back up our conversation. We're going to have to bring Crystal back on so we can get a little more deeper. And with that being said, my name is Calvin Mann. God bless you and encourage me. I'm Young. Peace.